Shalom, y'all. Hi, this is Phil Fanstill with the philipfiles. And this is a video. I know there's a subtle hint. You're watching it on YouTube. But there's more. This one is about Chutzpah, or Chutzpah, Chutzpah. Yeah. But it's basically a Hebrew, or actually it's a Yiddish word, meaning insolence. Someone who is a little too big for their britches. Someone who bites off more than they can chew, if you will. And it was actually a negative term, but in America, and in the even modern world, especially in Israel, it's taken on it has taken on a positive. Somebody who is willing to take a chance, willing to go for it, has confidence. And so that's what this video is about. It's about chutzpah, or confidence. We're going to today. The first video this is a 1 in a 3-part series. The first one is going to be about Joseph. The second one is on David, and watch that one. I think you'll be very happy you did because it's very interesting. I'm going to reveal one of my deepest, darkest secrets about the Bible. Okay, actually, I didn't come up with it, but something I heard a long time ago that's awesome. It'll change the way you look at one of the major stories in the Bible. And then the third one is about my favorite movie character, actually a hero of mine, really. This man has a lot of chutzpah. And yes, I'm talking about Indiana Jones. That's right. Yes, I'm talking about Indiana Jones. This is an awesome. Yes, I haven't watched this one. I just bought it, but this is an awesome series. Okay, actually, 1 and 3 are awesome. 2 and 4 suck, but 1 and 3 are really good, and they make up for the fact that 2 and 4 stink really bad. Yes, I'll watch them all over again, but yeah, 1 and 3. Anyway, I have there's a clip from one of those I'm going to show and kind of talk about. If you can guess it before I show it, you get nothing, but you know, you can just pat yourself on the back or rub your head or rub your belly. I don't really care, but yeah, we're going to look at that in part 3. So this little series is about chutzpah. Well, let's start with Joseph. Why? Because I already said I was going to start with Joseph, and my memory is pretty decent. Anyway, so Joseph, the chutzpah of Joseph. I've always loved the story of Joseph. Feel bad for the guy, really. And of course, I'm talking about Joseph in the coat of many colors. I was telling my children about this a while back. We're going to read about Joseph, and they're like, "Well, when's Mary come in?" I'm like, "Oh wait, no, different Joseph. This is Joseph of the 12 tribes of Judah, or not 12 tribes of Judah, 12 tribes of Jacob." And he's actually, I would say, one of the most famous Jews that's not even Jewish, because he's Hebrew. His brother was Judah, which is where you get. Anyway, we won't get into that. But Joseph, I feel bad for the guy. You know, here's a dreamer. As a child, he's a dreamer. He has all these dreams, and God gives him a gift, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This gift that God gives him is given. It's without repentance, as the Bible says. God's call and the gift that is on Joseph, God doesn't take it back. But the problem is, Joseph doesn't just walk into this supernatural life where everything goes his way. You know, and this is kind of a testament and an encouragement to so many, because Joseph doesn't. Joseph enters a crucible that really tests him when his brothers sell him into slavery. And of course, Joseph kind of had some chutzpah early on and told his brothers about his dreams, about them bowing down to him. He even told his father and his father's wives about them bowing down to him. And a little imprudent and a little insolent, if you will. But Jacob loved Joseph, and of course the coat of many colors comes in here. And eventually his brothers had enough, and they decided to kill him. And Judah intervenes. Actually, I think it was Reuben intervenes and says, "No, why don't we just beat him up and throw him in a well?" And so they like do that. And then along comes a caravan. You can read the whole story in the book of Genesis. But eventually Judah gets his brothers to sell Joseph into slavery and then pretend like he was killed by an animal. Classic, you know, classy people here. So Joseph is sold into slavery. And of course, Judah redeems himself later, you know. But for the moment, yeah. So Joseph is sold into slavery, and he goes down to Egypt. Now, this is where it gets even sadder, because in Egypt he's a slave in Potiphar's house, and Joseph has all this favor. You think, wow, things are starting to look up. It's like almost a movie, you got this. Things are starting to look up. Things are going his way, and then at the end of Act 1, he's he's thrown into prison, and for something he didn't even do. Actually, if he had done it, he would have been thrown into prison, which is one of those ultimate injustices. And in prison, he meets people. He works with the jailer. He finds favor in the sight of the jailer, and eventually, again, it's a great story. Eventually, he is brought before Pharaoh. And this is the incident I want to talk about. When Joseph is brought before Pharaoh, he's about 35, 37 years old, somewhere in there. He's been in prison or a slave for 20 some odd years. And when he's brought before Pharaoh, the gift is what brings him before Pharaoh. And that's what God gave him, the ability to interpret dreams and having dreams. But his ability to interpret dreams is what brings him before Pharaoh. Now, the interesting thing is he had that dream back when he was a kid. I mean, he'd had that gifting the whole time. But something changed in those 20 years between, because something that changed was Joseph's character, his chutzpah, if you will. There's something changed on the inside of him that he needed to have when he was before Pharaoh. In other words, let me put it this way. There's a famine coming. God knows it. All right, 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. Well, Joseph is the one that delivers the interpretation of this dream that Pharaoh has. All right, pretty good. Now, if Joseph stops there, Joseph's probably out of prison. Okay, he's probably given some money. Maybe he's gonna go back and show up on the doorstep of Jacob. Who knows? I mean, but there was a famine coming, and 7 years after this, there's gonna be massive famine. Jacob and all of the brothers and all the family, they're gonna probably die or be seriously. Many of them will die. Definitely, kind of, be a bad thing. And so God knows this, so he's preparing Joseph, not just with the dream, but there's another element that has to be worked out in Joseph, and that's his character and the wisdom that Joseph receives while he's mistreated, while he's in these trying times, this crucible, if you will. And Joseph comes through it, and so he comes before Pharaoh, and this is what I love. Now, imagine seeing the jailer who loves Joseph, and Joseph who's been, wanting a chance to get out of this prison. I mean, he's, I can just imagine him. He's working hard. He's doing everything he can, and he's still in this prison. He even interprets a dream for the butler and the baker. Didn't turn out so well for the baker, but the butler did pretty well. And this butler goes out and then forgets about him. So Joseph's like, finally, somebody remembers me. Finally, I get favor. Finally, I have a connection. And so they take him out of prison, they change him, they dress him, they bathe him. I mean, probably not in that order, probably, anyway, whatever. But they get him before Pharaoh. And so he interprets a dream. And I imagine the jailers there, probably also changed and dressed up. And he's like, okay, whew, you did it, Joseph, you're free. You're going to be rewarded. But then the chutzpah comes in. Joseph's like, and Pharaoh, here's what you need to do. And I can just see the jailer face palming. Not that they did that back then, but oh no, shut up, stop talking, Joseph, don't be so insolent. And if Joseph had family there, they would be telling him to stop. No, you've done enough. No, but he keeps going. He starts to tell Pharaoh what to do. This is what you need to do. You need to appoint someone. You need to store up in the time of plenty. And you can read the story again. And but he goes. He's telling Pharaoh what to do. And here's a guy that a couple hours earlier was in prison, had been in prison for decades, and now before that was a slave, and even still is a Hebrew, which at that time still not very well received, unfortunately, by so many. But here he is, and he's in front of Pharaoh, and he interprets his dream, and he just keeps going. And this is the thing I think God had been developing in him that whole time, the character. And of course, you see it later when his brothers come back, and he has the opportunity to kill them all. And he doesn't. And even after his father dies, he still is kind to them, and he forgives them and says, what you meant for evil, God has used for good. So he has this amazing character, which people still, as you read the story of Joseph, as I tell it to my students, because it's a great character lesson, as I tell my children, it's a powerful lesson in humility and perseverance and not giving up on your dream, and also just character and sticking with it. And so Joseph, he tells Pharaoh, and this chutzpah, that's the thing that God had been developing. The dream had been there. The ability to tell dreams had been there. But this character, that hadn't. And when the time was right, and the opportunity, and then the favor, the gifting of God opens the door for Joseph. And the dream comes, and all, and the butler, even the butler being there, all this coincidence. I live coincidence. Okay, coincidence. This is worked out. Joseph appears before Pharaoh, interprets a dream, goes a step further, tells him what to do. That, I believe, is what lands him as second in charge of Egypt, not the telling of the dream. Telling the dream opened the door. It's a character that Joseph had that puts him in second in command of Egypt. And that's where he's able to implement the wisdom that he had learned, managing resources in Potiphar's house, managing resources in prison, and the character. And then he's able to use that, store up for 7 years. He's blessed with a family, prosperity, he's got all these things he needs. And then, lo and behold, 9-10 years later, it doesn't happen right away, his brothers come back. And then even then, he tests them. He gives them a chance. And that's why I said where Judah comes back. And Judah, it's a great story. I'm not the point of this one here, but Judah ends up redeeming himself, because he's the one that offers to take the place of Benjamin eventually in prison, and there's remorse. And so even though Joseph loves his brothers and it was forgiving them, he still doesn't trust them. And so this scene, this thing that happens with Judah, kind of allows Joseph to say, okay, I can trust you. And it's a very rich, very great thing. But that's the thing when I think about Joseph, when I think about his chutzpah, that confidence came from the crucible, where his calling was tested. And then when it came through, the character is what when he was in front of Pharaoh, that character is what got him to where he needed to be. Anyway, so that's my story about Joseph's chutzpah. There's of course more. Read it in the book of Genesis. It's a great story. In our next segment, we're going to talk about David. Now, David, I'm going to tell you some things I heard in college about David and Goliath, which will not literally, but figuratively, knock your socks off. It's a very cool story. I hope you'll join me for that. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks. Oh, and if you want to just go there now, click on this link. Once I figured out how to do these little things, this link here will take you to that video. If you don't click anything, then you'll probably end up on some epic fail video, because confidence in this title is going to say, well, people with utter confidence that shouldn't have utter confidence, an extreme too much confidence, and there again, and so you'll probably go to an epic fail video from Albania, I'm guessing, or maybe one of these Ukrainian guys on the skyscrapers or Russian guys, I don't know, but yeah, you want to click here, okay, or you don't know where you'll go on YouTube. It's kind of scary. So hopefully I'll see you there.